One of the things that I find really, really hard about getting and keeping a band together is just kind of like the good spirits and morale and getting schedules and everything together. And it seems like you've gone out of your way to make it very difficult by having a bunch of people in a band.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
but is it because regardless of how difficult it is it like I have this vision that I am unwilling to compromise, and if I'm gonna do a ska band, it needs to be done right?
Yeah, that's about 80% of it. The other 20 is before the missiles started, I saw Inco Fido at Club Cafe, and there was like 20 of them on that tiny little stage. And my life goal is to beat that number.
It makes for a fun scene. Like, people like to watch a lot of people have fun on the stage.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also the music just sounds so much better with a couple horns in the mix instead of just a saxophone or just a trombone. Like, it just fills it out so much more.
Mhm.
And it kind of feels like necessary to the sound. We try not to play one horn shows because we just like that. We just like that stuff.
Yeah, I find myself with my band, particularly with Normal Creatures, struggling because I want to expand the band. I want there to be like this big thing because the sound is big. It's meant to be big. Whenever I had Clinton from the Common Heart on my show, I was like, I want to be the new metal version of the Common Heart. Like, I want like a giant fucking band on my stage, but it's so hard to find the people that like I can rely on, or the people that understand the vision, or that I can like trust, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess we'll just do backtracks for now, but it just feels so like empty to me. I wish I could just
Yeah.
have like 3 guitar players and like Mandy with like 3 backup vocalists behind her, you know, and like a live synth player instead of just like my computer working really hard in the background doing all the magic.
It would absolutely look sick, but you guys put on a great show and a very good sound as well. So I think you make it work with what you have.
Well, that's very kind.
Of course.
The first time
you're
I
real
saw
sweetie.
Normal Creatures was at Ormsby, and you guys didn't have a drummer, but you had a projector. You had blow up eyeballs. You climbed in and out of a trash can. It was a fantastic show. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I haven't seen you guys since you added the drummer, but oh no, I did. Yeah, because I saw you guys at Winter Wonderball, and everything sounded fantastic.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely, but I think what we're doing is easy mode compared to you having 3 different bands and a podcast, and you do Twitch streaming for art every once in a while, and you do the DJ shit.
Sure, yeah. I haven't done the Twitch streaming in a while.
I've caught 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, it's been probably about like, definitely well over a year. I think there was some, I guess that was one of like the COVID habits that I tried to break out of. Was just like, it's like if I have the opportunity to like get out into the world and do things with people again, like I really want to take advantage of that as long as I can, because who knows, you know, but I got a really good live streaming setup. So knock on fucking wood, something happens, I'm ready to go again.
I don't think this is wood.
What do you think this table's made out of, Mr. Engineer?
Corrugated cardboard.
Yeah.
Corkboard.
Which might have been wood at one point, but now it's like some sort of wood adjacent material.
MDF.
MDF, yeah.
MDF.
Yeah, it's mostly glue and sawdust. You better find something else to knock on.
Okay. That sounds like a country song.
You better find something else to knock. Yeah. No, it's gonna be a ska song. Fuck you.
So, you know, on the topic of that, actually, one of the things that is interesting about continuing to create art as we, you know, enter an older day of our lives. None of us are getting any younger, even you, my friend. But, you know, as we continue to make music and create art, when you're doing like, there comes the time where it's like, this song needs to be about something, right? A composition doesn't have to have a personality to some extent, but when you add the lyrics to it, it's like, okay, now this song has a personality. Mm-hmm. But like, what do I write about? You know, do you find yourselves with the Sneaky Heat Missiles at being like, because of like the style of music, it's like it may be a little bit easier to be more like whimsical and not have to be so like introspective? Or do you think there's a way that you're able to take like introspective concepts but put a whimsical spin on them to put it out there?
That's the latter is kind of what we do. So when I first started writing music with the Missiles, I had never written lyrics. I've never sung in a band other than like backup yelling and screaming. And mostly I was tired of like bands not working out because of some asshole front man. So I wanted to be the asshole front man. But then I realized real quick I didn't have anything to talk about. I have an engineering degree. I have a decent job. I had the wife and kids and all that stuff at the time, and I didn't have anything to be angry about. How can I write punk music and like not be angry about stuff? But then it didn't take long for me to kind of pick little things, in my personal life that I might have been upset about, or politically things that I've been upset. And then all of a sudden I've got all these ideas. But because it's a ska band and we don't have to necessarily take it super seriously, we kind of put a spin on it, say funny things or do funny things with it. As far as the writing itself, you were talking about personality in a song, and yeah, that is really difficult to do. We get maybe 2 to 3 times of practice a month, and we're in the process of writing a new album. And I have ideas, and I'll put drum machine stuff to it and throw my ideas down, but it doesn't actually feel good. It doesn't feel like it has personality until we have Ed and Mordecai and myself, and then Becca throws the keys on there, and then stuff starts to feel right. So even if I have lyrical content, I keep notebooks in different places of stuff that I think might be interesting. It doesn't feel good putting those lyrics on a song until like the song feels like it's doing something, that it's driving towards something.
Yeah. I think that it's songwriting is a collaborative effort, at least when it doesn't have to be, but I find that, if you're going to work with, a 20-piece band, it should be somewhat collaborative. But I'm curious, like in terms of like rehearsing, because you'd brought up that, you get to practice maybe a few times a month. And that's the similar situation with my bands, because there's other things going on, it's hard to make the time. But like sometimes like everybody can't be there. So we try to find ways to make it like productive. But when you have so many people, I imagine like you can't have all of those people at practice.
Right.
So is it just like a lot of faith in trusting the people that you bring on board to like learn the songs?
It's just hoping you've got the right person. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. And so far we've had a lot of changeover in the last year. Mordecai and I are the only ones left over from the original iteration. So this past year, where I wanted to really drill down and put out that album, that's my bucket list thing. It was more trying to get rehearsal time and get everybody on the same page for doing live shows. We had to bring Ed up to speed. Becca's a new addition to the band as of August. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have any keys written for most of the stuff, and having her sit down and listen to the stuff and put her ideas in there, like that's less work that I got to do if she's willing to do that work.
Yeah.
The problem with the horn parts though is if you only have like 1 or 2 days a month and your horn players show up and here's some new material, what do you guys want to do? Maybe you don't get anything done. So a lot of times I'll bang out the horn lines myself. And then I have to tab everything into charts so that the horn guys can read them. But I'm always open to suggestion. Hey, if you guys don't feel like playing this part, or, sometimes Adam's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to do this on the trombone. I'm like, please do something different. And it ends up still being a collaborative effort. But most of the time it's me like pooping out all of these ideas. I'm like, let's see what hits the wall and stays there kind of thing.
Sure. Now, I haven't seen your band play since either of you have joined the band, Ed or Becca. And I'm curious about the keys aspect in terms of like what kind of like textures you're putting into with the keyboard stuff. So, Becca.
So for recordings, I have a full 88 key stage piano that I run through a pedal board, just like a guitar. So it's got, the overdrive and all that fun stuff, the reverb. For shows, I picked up a guitar because it adds interest. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of simplify things that I've written for the recordings, just down to one hand. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So in terms of like the sounds that you're using when you're playing, is it just more this like basic like synthesizer style sounds? Are we doing like extra horn layers? Are we doing a little bit of everything? Piano sounds, space
Mostly,
gun, laser, pew pew.
mostly organs and electric piano.
Got it.
There's one where we use a vibraphone sound.
Yeah.
We are kind of playing with the idea of adding additional kind
I
of
still want
sounds
to put those chimes in that ins and outs song.
I
idea.
agree.
Like
Yeah.
the
I think we
Futurama
should.
style thing.
Mhm.
That would be just so good.
The tubular bells.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, we have ideas going forward. It's a matter of rehearsing them and just, we could throw them into the DAW and see what fits. As far as, sound texture goes, sometimes I get real anal, like that last note, I want it to echo 4 times after we stop playing the riff. And then we have to play with, the timing on the delay in order to get that far. And of course, it's difficult to do live. It doesn't always land, but it sounds really good when it does happen. It sounds good anyways.
You have to put the click in, like you have to hit it 4 times to get it to repeat at the same tempo. It's real funny. Every time we finish the song, we're like 800 beats behind or ahead because I have a horrible time with keeping on tempo.
I
It's
adjust
bad.
as we go. It's fine.
So bringing everybody into the conversation here, Ed, bass playing, grooving in the ska band. How's it been?
Excellent. Actually, I can't complain. There's actually, it's probably the most freedom I've ever experienced playing bass before. There are, some certain areas where, Rick wants things a specific way. So we'll get that. But today I'm going to make his head explode at practice. Normally I run dry through my cab, but I'm going to be introducing my processor
Oh, cool.
to the scene. So
What does it process?
a lot of things, whatever I wanted to. So,
I told him he needed to make things a little bit stankier. Let's put some stank on it. Let's get some drugs on this sound. I'm happy with 98% of the stuff that Ed does. And yeah, I do get anal, like you need to play these 3 notes at this specific time. But I think the theme with the band being basically the band for me is George Jetson meets the Continental as, Christopher Walken. And in order to get that sci-fi element, we got the keys, and I wanted to get the bass and to, throw an envelope filter in there, some weird fuzz or whatever. It just start kind of building stuff with that.
Yeah. I feel like that is maybe some of your rock/metal background starting to kind of creep in,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is cool. I think that it's really important to be able to take influence from like everything that you like and just do something that it ends up being like your own thing, instead of being like, oh, well, if we're a band of this particular genre, we have to play by these certain rules
Mhm.
and these certain like settings and these certain effects. Like they're really, I mean, there's only rules in life if you're like a boring motherfucker, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Yeah.
just like throw that shit out, have fun. It's art. Be
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And it is also super fun and interesting how sometimes like just like adjusting the smallest little thing to like the tone of a bass can change like all of the sound of the entire band.
Oh yeah.
It's like sometimes you figure out like, or not, sometimes you get into those conversations with people that get like really like picky about their tones and things like that, and it's easy to kind of meme
Yeah.
those people and be like, all right, it's not that big of a deal, but it does make a huge difference if
Yeah.
your ears
Yeah.
like trained to it.
I pick up on it. So I have 2 different guitar rigs that I play out of. I have a cheap Fender Frontman 212, and if I have to go upstairs, that's what I bring because it's solid state and it's light. But if we're playing a big show, I've got Carvin V3 Micro fed into a 212 with Eminence, and I don't change my effects going through my Helix for each one, but I can pick up on the differences. And in the back of my head, sometimes it makes me squirrely, and always like my solution is just to turn the volume up, and then everybody else bitches at me about it.
dude, that thing screams.
Yeah.
It does. It
Yeah.
really does.
But to the point about, genre specific, one of the things that I'm starting to see is ska starts to make a push into the mainstream. We have some bands that are starting to show up, and people are going to start looking at ska specifically. I've already had a number of people like, hey, I want to throw a ska festival. Oh, we already did the ska festival with Derek last year. We don't need to do that again. I'm joking. I would do another ska festival, but everybody is going to want to start doing ska festivals in order to kind of capitalize on that. With Catbite being on the Jimmy Fallon show and the interrupters on radio play and stuff like that, people are starting to take notice, and I think we're going to start seeing that. But what I'm afraid of is, the Missiles won't be able to do a show with, let's say, Grey Walker. And I'll get into that in a second. Because, there's a different genre. And what I liked about the Pittsburgh scene in general, like nobody was really curating genres that much. You can get a punk band and you can get, like Normal Creatures and stuff, and everybody would have a good time. What I'm worried about with ska getting more popular is people wanting to do only ska shows. And then after that, well, you're a ska band. You can't play on this, show with this metal band and this punk band. And I'm hoping to kind of transcend that by not leaning too hard into the ska sound and showing that we can do some interesting other things that other people can relate to.
Sure. I mean, I have a very, very similar issue with that when it comes to Normal Creatures, because like I really don't know like what kind of a band Normal Creatures is.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rock band. It's kind of rap.
Yeah.
Sometimes it borders on metal. I'm screaming and there's double bass pedals happening. It's metal.
Yeah.
There's a metal ingredient.
Yeah.
But it makes it hard because like I really want to play more with like heavy bands. If I had to play with like heavier bands or like Back Alley Sound, I would pick heavier bands. As much as I love Back Alley Sound, they're just way too much of a vibe for us. Like the people like Back Alley Sound, some of them might like us, and I feel like we might absolutely terrify some of those people. But also sometimes it's fun to scare people.
Yeah.
Freak them out a bit.
All the family friendly biker rally things that we played, just like it was crazy. You just see like masses of families and children just walk away from the stage, and we love that. It's great. Like, go away.
Yeah.
The real fan. We played a show up in Meadville with Fat Man D was there, and the local Meadville Community Theater was doing a series of skits from A Midsummer's Night's Dream. So you can imagine as we started setting up on the stage, like everybody just kind of leaving en masse. They're like, oh, we don't want to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Like I could overhear people, oh, what do they do? I think they're punk rock. I don't know. I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around.
I remember we played Grey Walker. We played, it was the 5-year anniversary party for Maggie's Farm down in the Strip District, because we're good buddies with all of them. And they had us like headline it. And like during the day, it was like, there was like Byron Nash played, and that was probably like the closest thing to us. Yeah. I mean, he's just like a hard rock motherfucker, right? But the rest of it, it was like there was like, like kind of like some like Americana folk stuff and all this stuff. Yeah. And then like, the sun sets and we walk up on stage and it's just like it's a 180. But the thing is, like, we were like friends with so many of the people that played.
Yeah.
And we have so many friends in so many different pockets of the scene. So it's fun to be able to do those shows. Like actually recently Grey Walker we played a show at the Cinderlands Warehouse because our Evan, the guitar player, he's one of like the main brewers for Cinderlands.
Oh, wow.
So we played there, and it was like all of the brewers bands played. So it was like there was like our death metal band and then like an Americana band, like a surf rock band. It made no sense on paper, but like everybody was friends, and it was a really good vibe. So I think that like it's more when I'm thinking about booking shows nowadays, like it's like I think that the idea is to just get like a really good vibe or energy from the people that are there. Do all of these bands actually get along with each other? Do these people like to hang out with each other?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Then there's a good chance that their friends also probably all know each other.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more likely that you're going to get people that aren't in the bands to come out to a show if they know that like they're going to see a lot of people that they're friends with, that they maybe don't get to see a lot, or maybe they do get to see a lot, but they still want to see them. I think what happens when you get these like these shows of all one genre, you know, you have a much smaller pool of people that are going to come out, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And also sometimes too, it's like some people like don't like I love hardcore, but I don't feel comfortable going to a show where there's only hardcore bands playing.
Yeah, they're all
'Cause it's
kicking
just
and
not my
singing.
energy.
You're gonna get windmilled in the
It's
face,
just not
man.
my energy at all, as much as I love that music. But
Yeah.
whenever one of my friends that are in a hardcore band might be playing with some bands that aren't so hardcore,
Yeah.
I'm more likely to go out because I'm like, oh, this is a more comfortable environment for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe I'm a baby, maybe I'm almost 40 years old, maybe both. I don't know. I just don't want to do this anymore. You know,
I was at a Les and Jake show and somebody shoved me into the pit, and that was like maybe 2 months after a knee surgery, and then I was grounded for like weeks after that. I couldn't move. I was 43 at the time, and I've got to worry about my personal health.
yeah. So I think that there's like a conversation to be had, and I've had this conversation on this show before with plenty of other people. So we're gonna have it again because what's a podcast if not repetitive? We
Just getting different opinions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's why you're here. Appreciate you. Lift me up. Lift my spirits.
Got you. Yeah.
I think that when we're setting up shows as bands or promoters or both sometimes, I think it's important for us to really think about like what is this event going to be like for the people that we're trying to get out to come? You know what I mean? Like sometimes it like Ormsby can be a hard sell for some people as
Mhm.
much as I love that place.
Mhm.
I know there are some people that are just like, oh, like that place. Like people like that still think Ormsby it is what it was like 2 decades ago
Mhm.
when I was like, you know, when it was like a crazy punk place. And I guess it's still like a punk place, but it's not anywhere near the
Yeah.
debauchery that it used to be.
Yeah.
So I know some people that are like that don't want to come out because of that, or some people that like might not want to come out to a show where it's like, is there a parking lot? No.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'm not gonna
100%.
come.
Yeah.
You know, is the neighborhood safe? It's like that area is fine, but for
Yeah.
some people it might be a little weird. Or you know, not to just completely like single out Ormsby. There's plenty of venues that have this issue. The Bridge in East Liberty is another venue right now that has this issue. You know, when I was talking with Dan, who runs sound there, the last time Gray Walker played a show there, you know, he was asking me like, why don't you think people are coming out? And I just think it's like nobody like really knows that this venue is here, and it's hard to get people to like go out to a place they've never been before sometimes. So it's like I don't know what the parking's going to be like. Can I drink there? Can I eat there? The show's on a Thursday. I don't know. Like there's all these like factors. So it's like you got to think about like, where am I having the show? Who's playing the show? Is this a comfortable place? Would I want to hang out here?
Yeah.
You know, like you're really asking a lot when you're like asking your, you know, 40 something year old friends, even like people that are in their 20s. Age doesn't really matter. It's like,
yeah.
do you want to you have what, it's like maybe you get like one night off a week to yourself,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
2. You know, it's like, do you want to spend that time? Do you want to find a babysitter if you have to, or do all of this stuff to like come out to see my show?
Yeah, and if you're going to bring friends with you and you haven't seen your friends all week because that's your one night a week, do you want to take them to a punk rock show where, you know, you get 15 minutes to talk to each other in between ear-splitting ridiculous noise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a formula for all of these things to be a lot of fun, and they are fun, and that's why we're still doing this all of these years later. But when you're dealing with I don't know we'll call them muggles for lack of a better term, people that aren't like in a band, just like the casual fan, the casual attendee of a show that isn't in a band. It can be really hard to get them to come out to a place that they're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
But it's like really hard to play shows at places where people are comfortable with. It's like you can't do every show at Mr. Small's theater.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I have friends that'll come and see us if we're at the Fun House or we're playing Hard Rock Cafe on the 20th, and they'll come out to that. But Ormsby's a really hard sell. We played a show last year, one of the silent film series at Ormsby, and I put a bunch of fucking work into that. Wrote a song specifically for the movie that we were playing with. I recruited 10 horn players, and 5 of them showed up. And I think other than, you know, friends of the band, like maybe 2 or 3 other people showed up despite all the work. And it was almost like an ideological shift for me in order to realize like what I'm doing is important to me. and it might not translate to someone who doesn't want to have to park on the street in Mount Oliver.
Yeah, it's like dumb as like simple as it comes down to that, but like, and it's like, you know, you put all of this time and this effort into like crafting this thing,
Mhm.
but it does hinge so much on something as simple as like, if people aren't going to be able to park there's no point in me
Yeah.
even trying.
Yeah.
But
Next Normal Creature show at 222 Ormsby, by the way. Shout outs.
no, but that, I mean, but that even goes back to, I mean, everybody wants to play Smalls, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no fucking parking.
Yeah.
It's all street parking.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
My friend, you bring up a really good point.
What's the difference?
So some of the other ingredients of that would be the pro level sound. Like Smalls can afford to hire somebody full time, or people that do sound full time. And they most of the criticism I get of Missiles shows are, we have no idea what you were singing. And I'm usually, that's fine because I forgot.
Oh yeah, he's like, I didn't know either.
But if you're a muggle, if you're a standard concert goer and your friends in a punk rock band in Pittsburgh and you want to show support for them, you would rather go to Smalls, where somebody who does sound for venues full time is running the sound for that.
Or also at Mr. Smalls, they have an open bar, and sometimes you can walk upstairs and get a quesadilla.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would actually go with that route.
Yeah.
With that.
The bar thing,
The bar
yeah.
thing. It's definitely the bar thing.
So
well, you can go across the street at Ormsby and
At
pick up a
Ormsby.
6-pack.
Yeah.
And then you can get wings.
Yeah. Same thing at Roboto Project. You go up the street and across the street, and there's a taco place up there that also sells booze. So, but there's other factors in this equation that all of them work together, kind of like in the Bernoulli's equation, where you take into account the friction in pipes and the flow and the volume in order to find out what your output is depending on the input. There's a lot going on
A
there.
little bit of
Bro,
fluid
what
dynamics.
the fuck did you just say to me?
Bernoulli's equation. You don't know that?
It's an engineering thing. It's like comparing kips and noodles.
It sounds like you're talking about a Between the Buried and Me song.
I could be. You mentioned previously chemistry or personality of bands and stuff like that.
Of the songwriting, yeah.
Songwriting, but also like as far as like picking bands who you want to do shows with. Like I know when you guys did the Winter Wonder Ball, like I'm friends with everybody with the exception of Back Alley Sound, and I would be friends with them too. They have a saxophone in their band. But that stuff is super important. It's something that I keyed in real quick. I'm not native to Pittsburgh, but I've been wanting to move to Pittsburgh since I was a kid. This past October, 2 years ago, I moved to Pittsburgh. I got a great place in Beachview. I've got a place to park my van. I've got a studio. And what I started doing shortly before I moved to Pittsburgh is almost like a guerrilla warfare networking. That's how I found your podcast. It's how I found Paul Neal's podcast. Don't Start Your Beat, or Don't Quit Your Day.
Yeah, it's Don't Start Your Beat.
Don't-
That's
when
Paul
you
Neal's
guys-
podcast.
When you guys
Mine
did the
is Start the
collaboration.
his is Don't Start the Beat, and mine is what was it?
Don't
Start your day job. Mine is Start Your Day Job, and his is Don't Start whatever. Anyways, God,
Blame it on the
I'm not
whiskey.
smart enough for
Don't
this
quit
fucking
your
joke.
beat.
Yeah,
Don't Quit Your Beat. That sounds like a different kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Hey Paul, if you wanna, you know, do a masturbation podcast, hit me up.
but I reached out to everybody, and it took me about a year to figure out that I look like an absolute psycho. Yeah, hey, you want to hang out? You want to come to my house for a barbecue? And like people are like, who the fuck are you? I was just trying to make connections. I was trying to make friends. I was trying to do something.
I honestly think that is kind of like maybe just like, I think that's a Pittsburgh problem and not a you problem. Because honestly, no. So my girlfriend Grace just moved here from Virginia. Okay. And she's kind of in the same mentality of like reaching out to people and always like I'll see somebody at a show and she's like, oh, who's that? They're really nice. Like, you should invite them over the house sometime. I'm like, I don't invite people over my house. I don't hang out with people. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's like, that's what normal people do. I'm like, I don't think that's what normal people do. But I think that like maybe it's just like a weirdo Pittsburgh thing, or maybe it's just me being like a tortured, introverted artist who has a podcast and invites people over all the time to talk.
I feel like I'm a tortured, introverted artist too, but I want to feed people smoked meats when I do that. Yeah. So, I've had a couple of parties at my house, and now like the people that are showing up, God Hates Unicorns, Hemlock for Socrates. Did you know people pronounce that wrong all the time? If you would just watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you would know how to pronounce a band name. I digress. I'm throwing all these parties and I'm cooking smoked meats, and then I'm finding out that half of them are vegetarian. And then I figure out why people don't want to hang out with me.
Well, I am not a vegetarian.
Okay.
So if I can ever, I believe I have been invited to a party of yours, but I have not been able to attend.
And you thought I was a fucking weirdo for doing that.
No, I think you're a sweetheart.
Thank you. I've got you fooled.
Hey, cheers. So with the future right now of the heat missiles, I mean, we could talk in circles about like, why can't we get people to come out to shows? And like, really the reality of it is just like, there's some truth to like the venue situations, the parking situations. Does a venue have a bar? That type of thing. And there's also just like the hard reality sometimes that I've kind of been like, it's like, oh, well, maybe my band just isn't that interesting to see more than once a year. And I already cashed in that card on my friends this year.
Yeah.
But it's 2024, motherfuckers. So I'm looking at all of you, sons of bitches. You got to come out and see us march at Ormsby.
Come out
a place with great parking.
Yeah. There's tons of parking up and down the street.
Yes.
And if you park up above Ormsby, you can walk downhill. And you can kind of keep that into consideration as you drink at Ormsby while watching the show. Do you want to walk uphill drunk or downhill drunk?
Work with gravity.
Yeah, work with gravity. Yeah, so you want to park downhill.
Yeah,
absolutely. So right now with the future of missiles, you've been talking about a record, a bucket list record. Give me some more juicy details on this bucket.
So on the bucket album,
the juicy bucket.
Everything that if you're a musician and you're trying to do something online and trying to get people to follow you, everybody's telling you to release singles. And even to the point, if you have a whole album written, you release a single once a month or once every 2 months, and then that's what keeps people's attention. I'm okay with that, but like, I want to put out a whole album. I believe you listen to albums too. I'm an album listener. I'll put on an album and I listen to it front to back. And if the whole thing doesn't really grab me, I might not really enjoy that band as much. And it's not the same for other people, but that's kind of how I operate. You buy a cassette tape when you're 14 years old and you listen to the whole thing, and you don't have to skip any songs. You don't have to hit the fast forward button. So what I'm basically doing now is trying to craft a whole album, and without, I didn't get the manual on how to do that. I'm just trying to figure shit out on my own, like the rest of us are doing it. So the idea is 12 songs, some of them longer, some of them shorter. Some of them we won't even play live because they really only work in a studio environment. Put out a whole album, and I'm hoping next October, because that's when we made our last 2 releases. And some sort of ridiculous party with, burlesque dancers and ridiculous costumes and shit like that. Have a bunch of fun with it. Yeah, well, we like costumes.
Yes.
We dressed up like missiles back in October when we played Brandy's basement. Yeah. I didn't look like a missile. I looked more like a silver egg.
It's kind of hard to get down the missile outfit without looking like a goober. Like we're not pulling up in big pointy cutout boxes.
Nobody has the big pointy
It's
head.
just a silver jacket.
But
Hence the match.
But yeah, I don't know if you have any tips for album writing. I'll gladly have them.
With going back to what you had said in regards to the singles discussion.
Yeah.
That's obviously been a very big talking point in the social circles of bands for well over half a decade now at this point. And I think there is some merit to that. Like, I think it just depends on how you want to operate as a band. I think there are a lot of people that are very all in on the social media stuff, and they like, we want to be a social media band and we want to blow up. So technically nowadays, if that's how you're thinking, the amount of effort that you put into a single with promoting it and all that sort of stuff to help get your name out there and get all of that attention, it's pretty much the same effort that you would put into an album.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do I want to do one promotional push with one with one collection of songs, being a band that is relatively unknown, maybe outside of my bubble, right? Or our bubble as a band,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or do I want to do that same promotional push 12 times
Yeah.
over the course of a year, hoping that, I can try different things and make sure everybody gets to hear a song. One thing that I've noticed with albums that I've put out is that you will have, if you look at your stream counts, it's always really strong at the beginning. And then towards the end, it falls off. And maybe for some people, it's just like, this isn't for me. This music sucks. Or maybe for some people, it's like, I have a 40-minute album, and maybe they'll put it on their drive, but it's a 20-minute drive. And then, their phone disconnects from the Bluetooth and they go into Whole Foods and they buy their fucking eggs or whatever they're buying. And then their grandma calls them and they get distracted, and then they never listen to the second half of your record.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors with things. I am also an album person. I grew up listening to records and CDs and tapes, and I prefer to digest that music like that. I hate when I find a new artist on Spotify and it's shows up in my release radar of I'm like, wow, this song is really cool. And I go on their page and they only have that song and then one other single, and it's kind of a bummer, and it's like, I wait, and it's like, oh, then they put out another single. And then they put out another single, and I like all these songs. And then finally, it's like the album's coming out. It's like, oh, I can't wait to hear a whole album of this band's music. Then the album comes out, and you've heard everything.
Yeah.
They've just re-released everything into one package. It's just kind of like a way to game the social media system and the Spotify system and release more to get put into more algorithms and more playlists. 'Cause that's the other thing too. If you've ever tried to get put on a Spotify playlist or anything like that, you have to release stuff in advance and you have to submit it, and there's all these weird rules. So it's more beneficial and you're more likely to get put onto a playlist if you're splitting everything up into singles. Because if a song's been on Spotify for more than a month or something, it's not I forget the qualifications now, but once it's been on Spotify for a certain amount of time, it's no longer considered for a playlist. So if you put out a whole album worth of songs, and okay, I submit the single, it doesn't get picked up, but then the album comes out, you can't submit any of the other songs for that album for playlist consideration. So now that's why people are doing all of these singles, because the game is to get on a playlist to get your streams up somewhere people find out. It's like a weird numbers game.
But don't you think that instead of adding the song to a playlist, it's the artist to a playlist? Because I add the artist. So regardless, so if we were to have the full album come out and I put the Sneaky Heat Missiles to my playlist, all the songs are going to be mixed in with that, not just here's a single. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody does it that way.
But then they're stupid.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, really, I mean, if you like a band, just add them to your playlist.
That's what I do
really
too.
It's really quite simple.
I'll follow artists, and typically what Spotify feeds me from an artist is going to be their song with the most amount of plays, which by default is going to be, probably most auditorial pleasing, because the vast majority statistically of people enjoy that song. It's the one that they listen to the most, or maybe it's the only one that they have that year. I don't know. But I think one thing's for certain, the social media aspect of this stuff is fucking soul crushing. It's terrible. So of all the people that aren't specifically talking to me every day and hearing all the bullshit of me talking about the songs I'm writing or what's coming out or what I'm going to do, with the smoking jacket and the Christopher Walken stuff, the only way they're going to find out about me is if they follow me on Facebook or the band on Facebook or on Instagram. So you have to do that stuff. But as you're doing that stuff, you become an employee, an unpaid employee of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok or whatever, generating content that's just going to funnel their users into something where somebody's going to spend some money. I don't necessarily want to work for those guys for free. So I have to come up with a personal balance of how much work do I want to put into the social media part of it that's going to let people know what we're doing without becoming an unpaid employee of the social media entities.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a scary thought, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. The thing that also bothers me too is just like, I feel like, let's say Facebook, for example, or actually Facebook and Instagram are the same fucking company now anyway, so it doesn't matter. We could talk about them both simultaneously. I don't think it's like everybody's using the same tools. So it's like we have the sneaky heat missiles, we have normal creatures. We also have Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Apple, like all of these companies using the same tools. And if we want to promote ourselves on these platforms, we have to do the same shit that they do to get people to see what we're posting. And I feel like that's really not fair. I feel like if you have like a business page or a band page that has like under 10,000 likes, you shouldn't be subjected to like these same things like, oh, give us $75 and maybe 200 people will see your post.
Yeah.
It's like kind of silly. You know, it's like, it's like, and the reason why I think it's silly, and this is like, I don't know, I'm not a fucking business guy, but it's like, if those companies would allow like the sneaky heat missiles page to operate in a way where there aren't all of these restrictions, and if people like your page, they could see what you're posting without you paying. If they allowed your page to organically get to that 10,000 to meet that threshold, you would be in a position as a sneaky hit missiles to give Facebook way more money to promote your stuff, because you will have actually been able to build a business that can make money for yourselves and actually more money for them.
Yeah. Hypothetically speaking, if we had made $25 a month from our Spotify plays, which that's millions and millions and millions of listenings, I think. That $25 I would filter back into Facebook to put out ads for the shows that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I can't, all of that stuff's out of pocket right now, and I can't afford that.
The grim potential reality of this is probably that they're probably making way more money than we could ever fucking imagine off of like every other small little page just throwing their $50 to promote their show and just hoping for the best. They're probably making so much fucking money.
My shift in thinking happened, I think it was about a year and a half ago, Jake Hirsch, when he passed away from FUBAR. And like many other people in the scene who, you know, his life touched and inspired, the Missiles put out something, you know, hey, we were saddened, whatever, etc. I can't remember exactly what we said, but it was a potent moment for me and for a lot of my friends. And then the very next day, Facebook sends me a message saying, if you spend $25, 100 more people will see this post. I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game.
Or you can hire a bot for $5 a month. That'll get you 200 likes.
Yeah. The bot thing is even worse in my opinion. It makes sense for some people. Like if you're, you know, shaking your stuff on OnlyFans and you have an immediate income from that, then yeah, maybe hire a bot. But you know, if I work 8 hours a day and I got to come home and work another 6 hours a day on that stuff, it's just not worth my time. I'd rather be writing and playing music.
Yeah, it gets real sketchy, and I think that it's one of the few things that makes me. Actually, it's the only thing that ever makes me question, like, why the fuck am I still doing this? It has nothing to do with any of the actual, like, creative aspects. Like, I love, like, writing music and being in a studio and playing shows, even if there's only a handful of people there. I love doing all that. But when it comes to, like, sitting down in front of a computer and thinking about, like, is this logo cool enough? Is this photo right? Is this, like, you know, all of that, like, the selling yourself part of it. And I mean, I'm just selling yourself to like, for like the hoping that the algorithm will see it. And I feel like another thing too that I noticed, and God, this is getting into a tangent, but it's a podcast. Is that when you see artists that I feel kind of are like, I mean, maybe this is a rude way of putting this, but I feel like they're like putting out a really cheap version of their art to satisfy an algorithm versus like just like focusing on the music. Like I know some people in some local bands that do like a lot of TikTok stuff
Mhm.
where they'll do like these little like reaction videos or like joke videos and all of these things that just in the hopes that like people are going to end up liking their band and their music.
Mhm.
And it's like people might like this personality that you're creating, but it actually has nothing to do with your band.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to be an online personality or do you want to be a band?
Yeah.
Some people can do both, but like, I don't know. It's like weird. There's no way that I could bring up any like exact examples without sounding like a total nincompoop or like a grump a dump. But like, it's just like, it just bugs me. But I guess like, who am I to say how somebody should or shouldn't promote their art?
Yeah.
You know, things are different for different people. Some people fucking love doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're really into it. God bless them. But to rewind this real quick, an idea that I've had, and I haven't done it, maybe I'll do it this time around. You can feel free to steal this idea too, if you
Okay.
want to, with your album. So again, what did I say earlier about rules? Rules are for boring motherfuckers.
Maybe they
So fuck the rules.
Mhm.
Why can't you simultaneously release songs online, 12 singles once a month for an entire year, but also put it all on a physical product that already exists in the real world?
Yeah.
Like at the same time, it's like, hey, here's the first online single from the album. If you want to check it out online, cool, stream it, promote it to all the people out and about. But at the same time, you have a physical product that you're selling at shows. And you could also say online, like, hey, if you like this song, you can hear the whole album now if you buy a physical copy from us, or you could just wait every month for the new song that we're going to release.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
People kind of do that with Bandcamp and stuff, right? That I don't use Bandcamp too often, but you can put some of those songs under a pay lock, right?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's a similar, but I think that would work. And then it would also generate people to come to your shows and stuff.
Yeah, possibly if they really liked it. I think that like what my perception of it is that I think what we're dealing with are like two completely different worlds. And I think that maybe it's something to consider being like an underground DIY band where it's like there is like the Pittsburgh scene or your local scene, regardless of whatever city you're in. And then there's the rest of the world. And I think instead of trying to interface with both of those things in the same way, you need to interface with them in two different ways. I think the way that we're promoting our stuff in the Pittsburgh scene and like our local shows needs to be completely separate from how we're trying to advertise ourselves to the rest of the world.
It's true. No, I've only ever been involved with DIY. You know, almost showing my age now, 30 years ago, you know, going to Oakland, hanging up fucking flyers everywhere,
Yeah.
you know, for a show that we're playing at Laga, Upstage, or Graffiti.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh scene died with Oakland.
It truly did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Metropole went for a little longer than
Yeah.
that, but which I was actually fond of that place as well. But that's all I know. So I mean, maybe if there's a way that I can possibly see outside that box, it can maybe be beneficial.
Totally. And I
But-
think too, like when people are looking at your band, if like I think it's really easy to unintentionally just look like, oh well, that's just a regional band from the Pittsburgh area or from Ann Arbor, Michigan, or wherever the hell you're from, right? And I think that maybe if you, when you're dealing with like your Instagram and things like that, maybe like just like trying to focus more on like just like this is the music content, this is the art that we're doing, this is, you know, a music video, studio video, that kind of stuff. But then like when it comes to the local stuff, I don't know how to do it yet. I haven't fucking figured it out. It's just like a thought that I'm having. I feel like there just has to be a different way to interface with those two worlds. And maybe one way to do that is to do like the local promotional push of like a whole album and then like have a separate thing where it's like, oh, we're just promoting these songs online and finding out like how to promote those things, because there's like there's always all sorts of people that offer different kinds of services. Like, we'll help promote your song, we'll help get you on a playlist, we'll help do all that. And most of it all seems like fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
But like, one of them has to be legit.
Yeah. I think part of the
Is it all about money? I don't fucking know.
It's all about luck.
that's what I was thinking about. You know,
It's just
I think a lot of
You
us
just gotta be
doing the
fucking lucky.
social media thing are hoping that something's going to go viral. My younger son Silas put out a video on TikTok that ended up with like 1 million some views. And it was just, you know, it looked like, you know, one of the cats ate his ear pod, and you could hear the music playing out of its belly.
She was just laying on it.
It's just, yeah, she's
Yeah.
just laying on it. But like,
It blew up.
for some reason, it blew up. So like, if we all play the social media game and something blows up, all of a sudden we're like famous for free. But it doesn't fucking work like that.
And a lot of that stuff is very temporary too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that I've always like said, and I don't know if this is a I don't know the word for it. I don't know if it's like a moral code or some shit like that. But you know, I feel like there are ways to, like, if you want to be famous, there's definitely there isn't like an exact blueprint, but there's things that you can do to kind of figure out and kind of trick the system. You could put on a costume to some degree and put yourself into a role to make, you know, things work. Like,
Yeah.
I could make I could probably make a ton of like really moody atmospheric beats and find some 19-year-old kid with a good voice, throw it through auto tune, and just make a ton of money as a producer if I wanted to do that. You know, but that's really not my interest. And my thing was like, if I ever accidentally get famous for something, I just hope that I'm famous for me, so I don't get stuck being this like caricature of something for the rest of my life to maintain my my well-being.
Yeah.
I think the fine line that we have to, and I'm going to sidetrack for just a second, because I've heard this from people on your podcast. Well, I would play music even if people didn't listen to it. I'm going to be honest. If nobody was interested in what I was doing, I'd find something else more fun to do.
Sure.
But I love doing this, and a few people are interested in it, I'm going to keep doing it. So the idea is to balance that tightrope. You know, what can we do that'll take us along the trajectory that maybe we'll get noticed, but we still stay true to what we're doing and having fun. I don't want to dress up because I have to, but I want to wear missile costumes because it's absurd and silly and it's fun. So let's all wear that shit. And if people like us because we do that, then that's bonus.
I've found that it's almost impossible now for me to make any sort of art or write any sort of song without thinking about how people are going to perceive it. And I think that's important because, like, sometimes I do make things that are very selfish, but when I'm going into making it, I know that it is a selfish thing. And I know this is probably something that's just like an exercise in creativity for myself. I have a ton of like unfinished random projects or songs, half finished drawings and things that was like, this is for me. This isn't for anybody else. But like, if I'm sitting down to like work on a Normal Creature song, it's like, okay, like this is something that's going to be in a live environment that I want people to hear and interface with. So I'm always thinking about all of those little bits of things, and like I want people to enjoy what I'm doing, but I also want to be selfish. You know, I don't want to put myself in that genre box that we had talked about earlier, but also I want to, sometimes I could check myself. I find myself maybe being too selfish or doing something that's just not a good idea. But I do like miss when I was like younger, before I started playing a lot of shows, and those expectations when I was just making music and like nobody knew who I was. I didn't have anything to like really like, not that I didn't have anything to look forward to, but I wasn't playing any shows or anything yet. It was just me in a bedroom on my computer making beats, and just like that was like the happiest. I wish like that ignorance is bliss sort of mentality of things. I wish now that like I could like make a song without thinking about like some of those things that I was just talking about, like how people are going to react to it, even though I think it's good to challenge yourself and to think about your art through the lens of other eardrums and eyeballs. But like, I don't know. I also liked when like it felt more free then.
No pressure.
Yeah, totally. Now there's like, I mean, it's not like a huge pressure, but it's there, you know?
Well, they say that the difference between art and media, like media in general, is you know, does it evoke a feeling or does it make a reaction in the person that's viewing it? And I've seen this topic come up, and the difference when people put out something that could be perceived as, let's say, porn, and they're trying to call it art. And the thing that kind of separates the two is, does it evoke some sort of feeling or response other than, yeah, I want to masturbate? And then that's what you call, art. So if you're creating stuff for just yourself, it's because you have something to say, and you're hoping somebody else will either respond to it. Maybe they'll commiserate with it, or maybe they'll think, you're an asshole. But either way, that becomes art because you've evoked a response from somebody else.
And there's also...
And that response also leads to a viral moment.
Maybe.
Hey. I think that, one of the things that I've always been so like worried about is just like being completely ignored. Like, it's one thing if I ever get like a negative comment or a positive comment, it's like, okay, it sucks that like somebody didn't like what I did, but it's nice that it upset them enough that they felt the need to like say something about it. It's really like a huge bummer when you just like put something out there into the world and it's like crickets. It's like nobody cares enough to hate it. Nobody cares enough to like it. It's just like, meh.
Yeah.
And like that makes me feel very, very
I think
hollow. But also so much of that is like processed through social media. And like, are people even seeing it? I have no idea.
With that, like, there are so many, I feel like there are so many bands today than there were in the past. Like the scene is huge, and they're like little bands everywhere. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. They want to get in and play shows. And like, that's why I think it's important not to get too hung up on just like having your shit be seen. Like ultimately we're all here to have a good time. Like, obviously, like, fame it'd be nice. Like, we were talking about the bonuses and stuff, but like we're just out here like up on stage playing shows, and there are a lot of other people doing it too. So like the chances of like someone like madly falling in love with your music are low, but like when people do, it's incredibly rewarding. And that's what we're just here to fucking play shows. We're just having a good old time. It's super. I think we all spend a lot of time making it high stakes, and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be high stakes. What do you think about this concept? And I have a secret cabal of people that discuss these kind of things, and I
really?
Yeah, very secret cabal. And one of the ideas within this cabal of how to achieve fame and fortune as an artist is, how long have you persisted and consistently doing stuff? So you mentioned there's a lot of people in the scene. How many of them make it to 4 years? How many of them make it to 5 years? Some of the bands that I've found in the last year or two have been around for 10 years, and it took me a long time to figure that out. And then by the time you hit a certain amount, I think it's in the back of people's heads. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're really trying. Even if their older shit sucked, like kind of some of our older shit sucked, they're still pushing on it and they're still doing stuff. These guys have been around for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Let's take them serious a little bit. Let's put them on a festival. Let's go to their show. I think that's an ingredient in the equation of success in a band.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'd buy that.
I think the effort to kind of keep things together long enough to keep putting stuff out for more than 3 years is an indicator of how serious you are about it, and also how seriously people are going to take you when you start putting stuff out continuously.
So, with the Sneaky Heat Missiles and this album, October, you think?
I'm shooting for October.
This October.
This coming up of this. Yeah, it's 2024.
It is 2024, baby.
Yeah.
Knock on particle board.
Knock on particle board. Yes.
Knock on what was this? What was this? MDF. What does that stand for?
Multidisciplinary function.
Motherfucking damn fiberboard.
Masturbation. Yeah.
Fraggle Rock is in there somewhere.
Yes. Well, cool. I obviously look forward to hearing that like a year from now or whenever,
Yeah.
that is. But more importantly, I think that it's really cool to see that your band and that mostly, you two have persisted in this, because you said rotating cast of characters. It is hard to find people that are committed, and like sometimes that's like it's totally understandable. It's fucking hard. It's like it's actually like really dumb to do this unless like you really want to do it. Like it's pretty fucking stupid if you really really think about it, but it's also awesome. So trust me, it's like there's plenty of other things that I should be doing with my life. Technically, if I wanted to be like a successful adult or something, whatever that fucking means. I guess success is happiness, and I suppose I'm pretty happy. So
there's some magical moments in this business, man. They just hit.
Yeah, I think it's just so easy to get like bogged down with all of the technicalities and the like that all that social media mumbo jumbo, or like the why aren't people coming out and blah 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 blah. And I think that it's just a matter of sticking to it, believing in yourself, putting out the energy that you wish to receive, if you're into that sort of hoo-ha mumbo jumbo type stuff. The
cosmic
crystals and leaves and cosmic energy and
rainbows.
Stuff. Yes, that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think there is something to that. I think that if you spend a lot of time either just complaining or being cynical or not putting anything out there at all, then how can you expect anybody to want to support or even know to support what you're doing? But I also think there's the flip where it's like I have some friends in some bands that are like maybe a little bit too positive about being in a band, maybe putting a little bit too much out there, and it gets kind of annoying. It's like, I love you guys, but like I know you're playing the fucking show. Just stop it. Stop. I don't need the fucking flyer every day. You're gonna make me not want to go to the goddamn show. So there's that. But I don't know. Everybody's just trying in their own way to find happiness. Which I think is actually a lot harder of a thing to achieve than success is personal happiness.
Being happy.
So don't take the happiness for granted is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's my positive takeaway for the day.
Ed, you don't look happy right now. Are you happy?
No, actually, I'm really quite happy.
Hell yeah. Well, with all of that being said, we're gonna put a pin in this conversation.
I wish we had like
for
an
now.
air horn right now, like
or that,
Or if we had a saxophone or trumpet or trombone player.
Well,
Yeah, it would have been really appropriate to have all horn stings for this episode, actually. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I could find some little type of device to let me just trigger the samples on its own. I know they exist. It's just a matter of, do I want to spend another couple $100s on something I don't fucking need? Welcome to being an adult in America. You're always spending a couple $100s on something you don't fucking need.
If it makes you happy,
it can't be that bad. That's a pretty good song. That Sheryl Crow song.
If it makes you happy.
I mean, the performance of it.
Dude, that was really good. Can you do that again?
No, I only had one Emmy.
It's a pretty good song. like on its structure, it's a pretty good song.
Yeah.
The particular performance and recording of it that exists that we have all been ingrained with throughout the years maybe ain't it, but it's a good song. I don't know if Sheryl Crow wrote that song or if somebody else wrote it, but it's a pretty good song.
I don't think I know that one.
So anything played between 93 and 96 on VH1, I hate. And that was one of them,
Well, I will say this. Another song by Sheryl Crow. I don't know if it's the name of the song, but that Every Day is a Winding Road, that song, that might be one of my least favorite songs ever recorded by humans.
Yeah. Did she write that about Lance Armstrong? Mighty Road bicyclist guy.
Oh yeah. Didn't he get kneecapped by Nancy Kerrigan while he was on a bicycle race?
Dude, that would be incredible. I would tune into that.
So if you want to add a 13th track to the Heat Missiles record, do a re-recording of
If it makes you happy.
yes, please.
Yeah.
And that would make me happy.
Oh yeah, I'll throw some horn lines on it. It would ska up quite
It would
nicely.
ska up quite nicely.
That's what every time we're riding in the car, like some bullshit song will come on, and Becca will be like, "Oh, this would ska up quite nicely." No,
I love that. That's great.
Happy it makes me.
Yeah. Well, hey, with all that being said, that is all, folks. I want to thank everyone so much for tuning in today to our little program. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes, Brian Sykes Howe. Don't just call me Brian. Don't call me fucking Sykes. It's weird.
Sir Richard Deangard III.
Heat missiles are in the building. Thank you all so much for coming on today. And until next time, my friends, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace.